Thursday, February 6th. Welcome back to the Plus. Welcome back to our friend Sam Betesh, who is a longtime radio veteran, broadcast veteran, producer, now hosting with Andrew Siciliano all over YouTube. He's got a podcast, and this is my guy right here. Good to see you, Sammy.
Damon, there's something just so warm in my heart each time that you and I get together, considering the amount of years that we've watched the careers go in these directions, and to now end up on the same screen together. I can only say our parents would be so proud to see this moment.
I don't know if the word would be proud, but they can definitely see this moment. They probably had such greater expectations from both of us. But anyways, it is always good to see you, brother. And just to let everyone know where this show is coming from, this is your official Super Bowl preview. We're looking at this game in a way where, look, I am not representing the point of view of the Kansas City Chiefs in any way, but I do know that my man from Philadelphia over here, Sam Betesh, has a lean towards the Eagles. We will be joined at some point today during this show, scheduled to appear, no promises, Joe Fortenbaugh, also a guy from Philly, Eagles connections, will be joining us, I think, some point to talk some bets here. But this is just a hell of a game, Sammy, and I really do think it is the Super Bowl we deserved. You know, it's funny. A lot of people, I think, looked at the Eagles all along. They saw one of the best teams in football, but didn't want to confer that onto them because, for whatever reason, people didn't like Sirianni, or, you know, Saquon's too new at being here, so this can't be sustained all year. And sure enough, it was. Vic Fangio's defense can't run this hot all year. Sure enough, it did. And the Eagles very much deserve to be in this game. And the Chiefs just had one of the more less respected, near undefeated seasons we've ever seen. But near undefeated is the key word at all times for the Kansas City Chiefs. There's nothing that slows down the winning, even though they're not winning in the impressive fashion that they used to. They're still here trying to be the first team ever to do 3 in a row. This is the Super Bowl we deserve, Sammy. This is a really good matchup.
What is more impressive than the 15 wins? I just don't understand that. And we really look at it from the Chiefs' perspective. It's really 16. You can call it 16 wins, or you can call it 15-1. Let's just go back to the old schedule. And if it was 16, they obviously didn't need to win in the Carson Wentz game at the end of the season against the Broncos, and the Broncos needed every bit of that game. So that's a punt. They lost one game to the Bills. I was rooting for 17-0. Here's why. I don't ever root against the Chiefs except for, and I've said this to all of my family back in Philadelphia, there's once a decade, I thought, that I needed the Chiefs to lose a game. Once a decade, if the Eagles are lucky enough to make it to the Super Bowl, that's the only game that I'm interested in the Chiefs losing. And frankly, if they were to get there against the Eagles, I'd rather they were a perfect team at that point, so that if somehow the Eagles are able to upset them, it is that more special. I enjoy when there is a team at the top and everybody's looking up.
Yeah, give me greatness. Awesome. Give me greatness. And, you know, I understand that we all got Tom Brady and Patriot fatigue there. At least I would hear an awful lot of that. And I'd just say, you know, I'd rather see Tom Brady trying to do it again than some team that I really don't have any emotion about trying to do it at all. Like, I appreciate the pursuit of greatness, and this is definitely what the Chiefs are running after. And it is the ultimate feather in the cap to do something in this league that no team, no quarterback has ever done before. As we sit and talk about the totality of careers, obviously Mahomes has many more years in front of him to reach the totality of Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is never going to win 3 Super Bowls in a row the same way no one has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row. And if Mahomes does it, that might be the fact that leapfrogs him to the all-time, okay, who's your number 1 quarterback? We're playing for the right to planet Earth today. Who you starting?
And Andrew has this theory.
I feel like it's between Brady, Joe, and Mahomes right now, and this could be the tiebreaker.
Andrew boils it down to simple math. 7 is more than 4 if Mahomes were to win this one. And he just says, no matter the three-peat, 7 versus 4, and you can't have that conversation until Mahomes gets to 7. A couple of things, first of all. Let's give a little shout-out to the Green Bay Packers, who did win 3 championships in a row, right as the Super Bowl was born. So the Packers won Super Bowls 1 and 2 and they had won the 65 championship before the Super Bowl started. So when we talk Super Bowl, so at least we want to just say that. So in regards to no team's ever done it, but most importantly, we know Montana and Brady didn't do this.
Over there.
The only reason is I've had some people come after us to suggest, right? I mean, look, it's worth dissecting just a bit. And by the way, let's just quick aside. How do you feel about that in regards to no Super Bowls versus no championships? The NFL is so weird in that way that we consider Super Bowls but not championships. So you're really not able to go further past 66. So a lot of times it's very unfair to teams to say that they never won a championship if they never won a Super Bowl. It's a little unfair.
As someone who grew up a Chicago Bears fan, the Bears had all those championships before the Super Bowl era started. Since then, only one. As far as I'm concerned, the Bears have one championship.
Okay.
That's just the way I look at it.
So
the Warriors hang championship banners from seasons that were played before the banner of NBA was actually conferred upon the league.
Yes.
And I know that the Warriors love to count those. Okay, sure.
So you're there. You're there. You're going to stick true to Super Bowl. And that's it. Okay. So let's go down that path. So let's do it. Let's throw away everything else.
There's enough evolution in the game where the break in how I think about it can be explained. Like, I'm not just trying to deny anyone their history or something like that, but there's such an evolution and it's so different now. I am very comfortable using Super Bowl one as a dividing line, BCAD, if you will.
Well, look, that's very fair. And it's not like I was trying to go down the road of Chuck Bednarik. I sat last night because I knew you and I were going to be on today. I watched the 30-minute recap of the Super Bowl from the 2017 season. I watched that to have it wash over me again what it was like to have the Eagles win a Super Bowl, to truly know when that ball dropped in the end zone and Gronk did not catch it on the Hail Mary at the end from Tom Brady, when the Eagles truly won that. Yeah, certainly for my lifetime and for me. And look, you've seen me cry and rip things apart and scream about Eagles games more than basically anybody else. You and I were confined in some spaces watching some important Eagles games over the years. And to know that they won that Super Bowl, yeah, there's no question that felt like the one. That was it. That was the championship. It had never been before that for me. I watched Andy Reid take the team to a Super Bowl, but that was different, knowing that was the one and holding on to it. So let's go down that path. It's all about just Super Bowls. Can I say this much? Let's also remember the Chiefs have already done something no other team has done, because no other team made it to this game. No team that had won 2 in a row had made it.
Right, it even qualified to reach a third Super Bowl.
Right. No one had even been in this game. No one had the 2 weeks of hype talking about the fact that there could be 3. And by the way, someone else who's scheduled to make out on this is Pat Riley, who of course coined the phrase three-peat. So that would be nice. So he's got that.
He's cashing in.
Here's what's fascinating about it. And I know we can both shed some tears on this one. The Niners lost 2 Super Bowls to the Chiefs. I mean, and we're not talking generationally different, like, oh, they lost it 30 years ago and then lost it again. No. In the span, we can just go back in the span of the last 5 years, the Niners had to lose 2 to the Chiefs. And now the Eagles have that same opportunity. If the Chiefs go 3 in a row, including beating that Niners team twice and these Eagles teams twice, that's also incredibly impressive. Because as we know, beating a team twice divisionally, right? That's always the hardest thing to do. And yes, this Eagles team is different. And yes, Garoppolo and Purdy are not the same person, but that's pretty impressive to take down Shanahan twice.
And look, I don't think it's easy to make anybody feel better about losing a Super Bowl, but Kyle Shanahan has lost 2 Super Bowls here to a team that, might be going down in the echoey hallways of NFL history as one of the greatest of all time, a team that is on par with the 80s dynasty that all Niners fans remember with, sepia tone colors attached to it. So this is what we're watching is very special. Who the Chiefs are right now is pretty impressive here. In their last 24 games, excluding a week 18 punt game, with no one gave a shit. Okay. In their last 24 games that mattered, the Chiefs are 23-1.
Is that good?
In that stretch, they've played Buffalo 3 times, Baltimore twice, Cincinnati twice, San Francisco twice, Houston twice, the Chargers 3 times. That includes 6 playoff games and a Super Bowl win.
Is that good?
They are just rolling in a way that only college teams really get to ever roll.
Damon, it just doesn't happen. In this, you talked about different eras and why we should think Super Bowl and not before that, and why we should think in this moment. To do it now, free agency, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, NIL is going to change the college game in that way. But to talk this era, free agency, etc., trades, we just saw in the NBA, ridiculous trades go. I mean, it is so difficult to keep teams together to do this again and again. And of course, the core of Kelsey, Mahomes, that is, and Andy Reid and Chris Jones, right? I mean, if you keep that together, you're going to have at least a nucleus. But think about the rotation. I mean, simply think about the receiving core. And by the way, this is Mahomes, without question, most talented receiving core. Without question. I mean, yes, the Eagles are different offensively. These Chiefs are also different based on DeAndre Hopkins and Juju and Malcolm Brown. This is, I'm sorry, but this is a different team for him. But to do this again and again and again and again in this day and age, you don't get placed into the Super Bowl. You start with 0. I mean, you got 14 wins the year before. You start the next year with none, and you got to do it all over again. Can I say one thing about the Brady Mahomes thing? And I want to ask your opinion about this also. How much does it matter when you dissect the Brady versus Mahomes part? Remember this. Mahomes, over the last 7 seasons, he's been to now 5 Super Bowls, which is just obscene.
7 AFC title games.
7 AFC title games. But remember this. He lost to Burrow. We know that. But if you even spin it back, remember in 2018, he lost the AFC Championship in overtime to Tom Brady. And he lost the Super Bowl in Tampa to Tampa and Tom Brady. So those are some head-to-heads. You know, Mahomes, not that he needed Brady to get out of the way, but Brady got out of the way, and that made it happen. And before, when Brady was it was not happening before that. Yes, that 2019 season where they beat the Niners and Garoppolo, Brady was not in the Super Bowl, but the Chiefs did not have to go through them either. They were beaten by the Titans that season, Brady. So interesting that he never did. So the head-to-head also goes to Brady, just to put a note on that one. Because I don't know for you and I mean, generationally, if we're telling our grandkids about amazing players in the game, are you and I in the end going to latch harder onto the Tom Brady piece or the Mahomes piece? Are we going to be, are we going to say, that was our era?
Well,
which one more?
Yeah, I mean, they come up in the same conversation automatically, do they not? I mean, I don't think you can really have one without the other. There's a clear torch being passed from great player to great player at that position. And, there's several guys who put their hands in the middle trying to grab that torch. We saw Lamar do it. We've seen Josh Allen try to do it. It's funny. Aaron Rodgers has had a great career, but it's, I think, among the most overhyped careers for a dude who's only won 1 Super Bowl ever. I mean,
now, I do want to say this. My least favorite thing in sports is except for the one season. The term except for. So I want to at least say Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. That is,
he did.
Okay, so we're not going to take away that season when we discuss him. But in regards to, and here's the problem. This is the biggest problem in what we do. The biggest problem in what we do is you can always find somebody that did a little more than someone else. So you can get heated about LeBron James not being the best player in the world if you find somebody who loves Jordan, right? That's all you need to do. You find one person that wants to talk Jordan, and all of a sudden, LeBron's nothing. Well, let's not just dismiss nothing. And Rodgers, multiple MVPs. Yes, he was the greatest at his position for a number of years. But to your point, there should be more. It feels like there should be more. And Peyton Manning was also probably in that category. And the irony is, Peyton's second Super Bowl, nobody thinks he was the best player on that Broncos team. That's what's really interesting. Peyton gets 2, and therefore we get to see him as a multiple Super Bowl winner. And then we say, now he's on that pedestal. What if Peyton only had 1? How different would that
I mean, it changes things.
It does. It does. And Rodgers, you're right, should have or could have had 2. But here's another question for you in regards to dynasties and what we will remember and tell our grandchildren about. I have so many people pushing against when Andrew and I speak, when I talk to you about it, when we go on and talk about this Chiefs team. Obviously, the referees and the officials, and we can get into that. We can talk about it. We can go down that conspiracy path if we want right now. But so many people are against it, and so many people are hating this Chiefs team. Can I remind everyone how much more likable this Chiefs dynasty is than the Patriots dynasty?
Right.
Is this even a question? I mean, how
you
likable
want
is
real, elements of, is there cheating attached to that? There have been elements of that, certainly more attached to the Patriots and their success than this. So I was talking about this yesterday, and what I think we have here are a growing voice of, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists There are people who just want to complain about everything. They'll never be happy with just that. We like you and I before we started today. There are people who are covering their first Super Bowl who are walking around Radio Row like they're jaded cynics who are just so sick and tired of being at the Super Bowl. Like, you douchebags, you're all so lucky to be there. Have fun, enjoy it. I don't know why acting like you're too cool for school is now a required feature for a sports media member. It's awful. It really is.
I want to hit that real quick as you collect your thought. I do, because this is such a good one. I remember the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, and remember there weren't enough hotels,
right,
and the city was difficult to navigate. And I remember the complaints, and I thought, what's funny? You invite a group of people whose job is to complain for a living and get paid for it. This is going to happen. Ultimately, everyone's going to take a shot at it. And that was my point to you last season when we were both in Las Vegas. Make the Super Bowl in Las Vegas every year. Watch how many people complain. It's going to change things. I said Vegas,
New Orleans. Vegas just bounce back between the two cities.
How are people complaining? I mean, I even said it in Jacksonville. You're complaining. You're at the Super. Everyone in the world right now, from a sports perspective, only wants to be one place. You're there, and who cares where it is? There's golf tournaments that matter all over this country that are important. The Super Bowl, no matter what, Jacksonville or anywhere else, it matters. Stop complaining.
Right.
It's everyone that knows what you do thinks you should be there, and guess what? You should be there, and you're lucky enough to be there, period.
So to get back to where we were launching off from, is when it comes to the conspiracy theorists who complain about what looks like tilted officiating that benefits the Chiefs more often than not, there is a preponderance of evidence with my own two naked eyes that something I will tell you is not designed to be happening is happening. Like, there really is a benefit of the doubt that seems to be extended to the Chiefs that never gets extended to the opponent. I mean, we could go back through the 49ers Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs alone and just count how many times Nick Bosa was clearly being held in overtime, much less the entire game. It's stunning how often the interception that Mahomes throws is overturned by a pass interference or a decision that renders that play didn't even just happen. It is, I think, 17 times now in Mahomes' career, or just the last 3 years during this, maybe it's not career, it's just this Super Bowl run, that has happened. That's an awful lot of turnovers being reversed.
It's a lot of coincidence, although I also want to remind you of one stunning outcome, which was last season, regular season versus the Bills. The most egregious call of the season went against the Chiefs, which was Kadarius Toney offsides on the play where Kelsey laterals across for a essentially walk-off win for the Chiefs that was taken off the board. So I just want to remind
Ford offsides many years ago.
Okay, 2018 AFC Championship, the Chiefs are winning that game. But again, the conspiracy then would have been that the calls go for the Patriots, right? The conspiracy then would have been that the Patriots get the call right. So my question is, in my own head, are these teams better coached and executing better than everyone else? Or are the officials also lulled to sleep by the greatness and therefore just assuming that they're part of that history, right? Like, we are in this Chiefs dynasty moment. So they couldn't have possibly made that mistake.
Right. It's easier to blow a whistle on a rookie big man than it is Shaquille O'Neal, because a rookie big man is probably going to foul. That's just the way it goes. So I'm assuming that's going to happen. I think there is a little presumption of greatness. I think there's also greatness in play. And I do believe that really good teams that keep appearing in big games are less likely to be shooting themselves in the foot with bad penalties. And teams that are worse do have more bad penalties called against them because they're not coached as well. They're not executing as well. And there is an element of human nature giving benefit of the doubt to established brands.
But I will take off the tinfoil hat. I'm going to say that there is not a conspiracy with the league. I will say that I don't in any way believe that Goodell is into it. I have a cousin, Jack, who is so convinced. Jack, by the way, while we were living together, came and disrupted our lives for a few days. You'll remember him. He's a tornado. But Jack is convinced that it's not even about Goodell. It's not about the league, that it is about specifically the officials and a relationship with Kansas City. In other words, he's reading deep in Reddit chains somewhere about the Chiefs really influencing the officials.
What, like they get
Like
free rib tips whenever they go to Oklahoma City goes?
Correct. Like I mean, that's how deep he's gone into this, where he's assuming that it's that. I in no way, in absolutely no way, want to believe any of those conspiracies. I will simply say on the field at the time when these plays are happening, as you just said, yeah, there's a tendency to think this team is executing better than the other, and perhaps that didn't really happen the way that we saw it happen.
I also can pop anyone down in front of any game and say, let's count the number of shitty official decisions that happen in this game. And you're going to walk out of that game with 10 good. That wasn't very good. You know, I mean, there is a problem with NFL officiating. There's a problem with us trusting the process. The fact that gambling and football are so in bed with each other doesn't make this an easier discussion to have. Look, there's a lot of things in play. But a straight up, we need to have a RICO case put down by the FBI to figure this out. I don't think we're there. I just don't think we're there.
We're not.
And I know that there are enough way too deep in their own freaking emotion football fans to convince that too. And again, you do have an extraordinary amount of coincidental evidence to suggest you're onto a little something. But I would just say that there's way too many large mountains of money being moved around here.
Yes.
For there to be something that would be pull out that block, the entire Jenga tower comes down.
You're not going to tear down the league on this. I just don't think it's going to happen. And again, I celebrate the dynasty. I think they do execute better than everyone else. And I should be as upset as anyone else. James Bradbury's called for holding on the most important play of the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I mean, that's it. The Eagles stopped the Chiefs on third down. They're going to kick a field goal and allow Jalen Hurts 90 seconds to potentially tie or win that game down 3. And instead, that holding call allows the Chiefs to run the clock to 0 and kick a walk-off field goal. I mean, that's it. I mean, that is a holding call that happens on many plays. Bradbury admitted after the game, yes, he did hold him in that spot, but we all know that had it not been called, it would not have been flagrant. So these things, look, it happens at the worst times, and I can only hope for this Super Bowl that you and I are not dissecting one crucial call that could have gone the wrong way. And I'll give the league credit. In your mind, can you think of a Super Bowl that came down to an officiating call in your mind quickly right now? I can't necessarily. I mean, you mentioned Bosa being held up, but I'm talking about one play, one turning point, one moment. Maybe the game I just mentioned is the closest to it. And even that over time has softened. I don't really convince myself the Eagles, were going to win that game. I don't know that it's come down to that. In other games, not the Super Bowl, there have been playoff games that we can argue that, of course, immaculate reception still talked about. But in a Super Bowl,
Ahmad Brooks is roughing the passer of Drew Brees that put the 49ers on the road in Seattle in the NFC title game that they lost. But
these things do happen. But I'm gonna say I'm gonna give the league credit. Super Bowl, we tend to get it right, which means there's probably a conversation somewhere. Hey guys, don't fuck this up. Don't make it. No matter what, let's not make this game about us and you, because these players are here for a reason. Let's let them decide it. And that's it.
So what I'd love everyone who's watching right now to decide to do is hit like and subscribe. Please do it across both of these channels. Yes. We are streaming at we're on
Bruce Plus, right? So
we're on the
with you, of course, and then we're also at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam is where Andrew and I have our show, all of our episodes, etc. You can also catch Andrew's channel as well at Siciliano Show. But today we are on Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. Thank you, D.
Absolutely. I don't know why I said all things considered. That's NPR. That's not fine. You guys.
You're right. Also enjoyable.
Look, also enjoyable. Yes. Speaking of enjoyable, I don't know what anyone is doing for lunch today. Make sure you do it with my man Ike right there. Hopefully you live around in Ike's. You're in a delivery area. If you're not, it's time to move, or hopefully Ike's will be opening near you soon. It is dotted the entire West Coast. He opened an Ike's in New Orleans. Sammy, we had a headquarters. Should the 49ers have reached this Super Bowl, we had a home base. And unfortunately, the Niners didn't bring us to the Super Bowl this year. But Ike was ready for us. We were going to eat well there. Anyone can eat well. Order Ike, sign up for the Love Rewards program and do it right now. The Dubliner and West Portal. I love my guys at the Dubliner. I don't know where you're hanging out, watching games, got a neighborhood bar. Go get the best Guinness pull in San Francisco at the Dubliner West Portal. And when it comes to, and I know that you and I, Sammy, are going to talk about maybe a wager or two to lean in this game, check out BetUS. Use promo code YouTube150 and get 150% off your sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. And check out the BetUS Casino that is happening right now. You get 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 and 250% crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000 when you check out the BetUS Casino. So all of that is in play. And thank you very much to the sponsors, and thank you to everyone who's hitting likes, subscribes, dropping super chats, all that stuff. We appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. Just to show you that you can't please everyone who's watching, we got Tom Wade. Yes. Hey, talk about Justin Tucker, who's been appropriately messing with masseuses. Like, first of all, we're talking about the Super Bowl. Second of all, Deshaun Watson getting tug jobs is a lot more interesting because he's a quarterback. You cannot interest me in a kicker even doing terrible things. Like, it's just a fucking kicker. So fuck Justin Tucker. Cut him. He sucks now. Get rid of him. He's a kicker. Move on. What do you? Come on. What are you doing?
That's it. That's it. And that's really, you know what? I don't know what we can say about that other than Deshaun and Tucker. This will go down. I mean, we will never think. And we thought that Robert Kraft was maybe going to be the connection with masseuses for the rest of our lives. And quickly he was superseded by both.
The White Orchid? Was it the White Orchid down in is that the name of that? Or maybe that was her nickname. They called her the White Orchid. I think you're right. I don't know. But either way, handle that yourselves, everyone. Yes, exactly. People are telling tales out of school.
Truly.
But be nice to your massage therapist. It's a good advice to everyone. Again, the cynical sports media might be there looking at this game. When I think of cynical, jaded fan bases, the Eagles come right to mind. Yeah. What a detestable group of humans they sometimes can be. But boy, I hope that they just enjoyed, Sammy, what was, to my own eyes, one of the single greatest seasons I've ever seen from anyone in any sport ever. Saquon Barkley, like, we all knew he was good in New York. We all knew he was good coming out of Penn State. I don't think anyone ever said, he might be Walter fucking Payton. But this year, behind that offensive line, it's basically what he became. And if you're asking me, what is the one thing the Eagles need to do to win this Super Bowl, it is a lot more Saquon Barkley than we're used to even seeing, and we're used to seeing an awful lot of Saquon Barkley. This game can only be won if the Eagles win it by multiple 15-play, 8 to 10-minute drives where Saquon Barkley is polishing these bad boys off with touchdowns. It is going to take multiple double-digit minute drives, and the Eagles' offensive line has to be the best unit. The Eagles' offensive line has to be better than Patrick Mahomes.
I tried to convince my cousin in the NFC Championship that A.J. Brown had to be the Eagles' best player, and it was A.J. Brown's best game of the playoffs, best game in some time. But without question, he said to me, stop talking. The Eagles' best player in the NFC Championship needs to be Saquon Barkley. If this team is running well and running at the clip that they need to, it is.
By the way, Smiley Dan coming in here.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Yes. Please.
Thank you.
You have to have Saquon continue what he's doing. And has it slowed down in the postseason? Absolutely not. How about the divisional round? You think the Rams wanted to let Saquon Barkley, who put 255 yards of rushing on them in the regular season. You don't think the Rams, who let up 2 60-yard touchdowns to Saquon in the regular season, weren't considering that they should stop him in the divisional round? And he ran for 2 60-yard touchdowns against the Rams in the divisional round as well.
I bet you Sean McVay even highlighted his name in the week.
You think so? Right? Like, hey, let's look for this guy. It's really stunning what he's done in the postseason. And let's go back to week 18. I mean, I don't know where you stood on this, Damon. Should he have gone for the Dickerson record in that moment? He's 100 yards shy of breaking Dickerson's record, which we all assume against the Giants he would have done. Instead, he rests, and he rests for one reason. And my only argument at the time was this. A team wins the Super Bowl every single year, but a team does not get an opportunity to break the all-time rushing record every year. And if the ultimate goal is not reached, on top of it all, have you really robbed yourself of some history? I mean, there was a lot to be decided there, and the Eagles made what everyone would say is the right choice. Because again, had you made the other choice and he gets, obviously the if something bad happens is reprehensible. You cannot defend it.
But that's an umbrella you're standing underneath on every snap of a football game being played, period.
Yes, period. So what's incredible, and I want people to remember, is two things. A, the fact that on his back they are here in the Super Bowl means they essentially already made the right decision. He is fresh in a way that almost no other player on the field looks, and he's playing pretty spectacular opponents here through this run. But let's remember two things. Number one, the Eagles also, even though they did not get the Dickerson record, no team in the history of the NFL has ever rushed for more yards in a season than the Eagles did this regular season. And so that's number one. So they have a record. I just want that to be put out there. Right. And number two,
between Hurts and Gainwell, and
exactly. Yes, Gainwell, Hurts, and Saquon. This team, and then Shipley a little bit here and that is already accomplished. And number two, if Saquon rushes for 30 yards in the Super Bowl, it's the most yards any player has ever rushed for in the history of one season, if you include playoffs
included.
So that's pretty solid.
You know, when I go back to that Week 18 decision, if he's 50 yards away, I think I'm playing him. 100 yards is a big afternoon. It's a full game. You're playing a 4-quarter football game, or maybe it's 3 runs for Saquon the year that he
did rush for 100 yards against the Commanders in the Week 16 loss in the first quarter when Hurts was healthy. He ran for 100 yards in the first quarter. Now that's not going to happen all the time, but I think it does. I think it changes the math a little bit there, because you can convince yourself that we can put him out there for a half and maybe accomplish the 50 yards. So maybe that would have changed it. But you'd have to say at this point, with the way he has stamped this postseason, you'd have to say that it was the right call. And you didn't have a bye, right? I mean, if you were the Lions with the 1 seed, maybe you could say we've got the week off, but that you had to create their own bye there.
Yeah.
And that was the smart move.
I think it was a smart move. And, you know, look, it might be spitting in the face of football history in a real moment. And this is where, like, you got to, I think, go to the player and you say, Saquon, are you good with this? And the fact that he was good with it means it's the right decision to make. And, you know, I mean, he's rewarded. He, like you said, he looks fresh as a daisy. He looks like he's in week 1 right now. So it's incredible. All the tread that is off his tires, off, you know, all those years in New York, the unbelievable ask of this entire season. And he looks like he's ready to go here. So
you
said for the Eagles to win this game, he's got to be the MVP. I mean, that's it.
I'd say you're about right. I mean, Hurts had his best game in the NFC Championship, but it was 3 touchdowns for Hurts, 3 for Saquon. And Saquon, let's remember how that game was stamped. No team had run more plays on an opening drive against the Eagles all season than the Commanders did to start the NFC Championship. An 18-play drive. Now, it only produced a field goal, up 3-0. But how amazing is it that over 9 minutes and 18 plays of the Commanders essentially saying, we're here today, we are for real, this is not a fluke, we are going to play. And they absolutely executed, including 2 fourth-down conversions against that Eagles defense on the way to going up 3-0. But again, the 18 plays, and in 10 seconds, the Eagles hand the ball to Saquon once.
Gone.
And he says, it will not be your day. And that was it. I mean, of course, living it in the moment, you're still tense for many moments of that game, but we will look back in history and say the Commanders marched down the field and the Eagles gave the ball to Saquon and never looked back. And that's really essentially what happened.
Vic Fangio has to have a monster afternoon. I mean, you want to talk about all the hype that Sirianni and Andy Reid get and the focus on the offensive spectacular play of Mahomes and Saquon. You got 2 defensive coordinators who probably go more who will probably do more to decide the Super Bowl than any other guys in the game. I mean, what Spagnuolo and Fangio have both done this year is extraordinary. Fangio took a defense that was very meh last year,
especially secondary. Especially secondary.
Bully. Yeah, absolutely. And that's not all Cooper DeJean and White Lightning.
No. But think about this. So part of the conspiracy theory with the Chiefs is that the 4th and 5 play that Allen potentially was hit late on that blitz, the 4th and 5 that was essentially the Bills' last offensive play of their season.
By the way, I did think that Allen picked up that first down.
Okay, yes. Okay, look. Yeah. In regards to that, I would say naked eye when it first went, I thought on the field it just should have been called a first down. I don't know how it wasn't called first down initially and then reviewed, because that makes a big difference, right? We all know that if you need the irrefutable evidence to take it away, that would have made a big difference. I don't know how it wasn't called first down on the field, but let's go to the 4th and 5 real quick. So people say that Allen was potentially hit late there. I would have hated if that play was taken away, because I thought Steve Spagnuolo so severely outcoached everyone in that building on that play. That was the most impressive play of that game, is what the Chiefs were able to do defensively on the number 1 play of the game. That had to be the Bills' best play of the season. It was going to have to be for them to pick that up, and they could have won the game had they picked that up. And instead, Spagnuolo counters with that blitz in the opposite direction of where Allen had told his line to be. I mean, it was just perfect, and I'm glad there wasn't a flag on that play, because defensively it was perfectly executed. In regards to Fangio, I just want to say this. It's incredible. No team since 2000 had ever had 2 defensive rookie of the year candidates the way the Eagles do this season in both DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Now, granted, the Rams did it also this year, which is amazing too. But those 2,
Jared Verse is a player, man. He's so
Verse
good.
Is next level. He definitely is. And Fisk is nothing to sneeze at all either. But DeJean and Quinyon obviously changed that secondary. And if you ask a lot of Eagles who have been interviewed this week, of course, and I read a great piece with Howie Roseman, they say that the Eagles' entire defensive season changed after that bye. We've all heard that. But the reason is that DeJean was inserted into the starting lineup at that point. So you could say that it hinges on that. What Fangio's gotten out of the 2 of them and what they've done to change their secondary between this year and last year is stunning. Number 1 defense going up against Mahomes. I've said this to anyone who will listen. Do you know what the Bible should be for Fangio this week? Go back and look at the box score of the 2020 Super Bowl. Buccaneers and these Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
You think Brady Mahomes, you think it was about that, but when you really look back on it, do you know how many touchdowns Mahomes had in that game? 0. Is that even possible? They scored 9 points in these Chiefs scored 9 points in the Super Bowl. That is the blueprint here. Now the Chiefs were a little injured on the offensive line that day, but the Eagles are going to need to get home. And I mean, get home. I mean, they're going to, but that Eagles defensive front is going to need to be the difference. And if you remember,
I'm also too, not to cut you off, if I'm Vic Fangio, I'm giving everybody full permission to pick up 15 yards, letting this guy know we're here this afternoon.
We're here.
Because look at it this way. If you're going to hit him, we're probably going to get a flag anyway.
Yes.
Not to be a conspiracy theorist.
No.
But I mean, this is an ultimate get your money's worth. If you got a chance to put it on him and let Brittany feel it up in the box.
Yes. It has to be done, because if you remember 2 years ago, now the Eagles have the number 1 defense this year. They did not have the number 1 defense in the league when they were there 2 years ago, but they did have the number 1. Remember, they had a record-setting sack unit. That team had more pressures, hits, and sacks on the quarterback than anyone else in the history of the game going into that Super Bowl. And they got to Mahomes once in the first half, and he, remember, limped off at halftime. It was looking a little like, oh, wow, this could really be it. The Eagles were up 10. You know how up 10, what that means in the Super Bowl as a Niners fan. But up 10, feeling good, Rihanna playing, Mahomes was a little hurt. They didn't touch him again. Mahomes was the best player in the second half, of course. He ran against that. I mean, it was, so there will be that memory for Sirianni, and he will want to combat that. I feel like Fangio could and should be the difference. This is an opportunity. Jalen Carter, look, if Jalen Carter's the MVP, I guess I wouldn't be stunned either. It would take that kind of a remarkable performance to get Mahomes in that place. But go back and look, Bucks, Chiefs, that's the blueprint, man. That was a different game. And that Chiefs team was spectacular. 9 points. 9 points.
Chiefs -1.5. We haven't actually talked about who we think is going to win this game. We've just been setting it all up. We're on the golf course here. It's time to put the ball on the tee and hit it.
Let's go.
I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs in this game. I think you like the Eagles in this game, but I like the Chiefs in this game. I'll explain why in just a second, but I like Chiefs 31, Eagles 24. I like the Chiefs to cover, and I like the over in this game. It's Chiefs -1.5. The over-under's 48.5, down from 49.5 where I think it opened. I like the Chiefs in the over. I like the Chiefs in the over in this game, and I'll explain why in just a second. How are you feeling about it?
Okay, so let's admit that in the NFL, 1.5 is a bit of a sucker, right? I mean, 1.5 really represents very little, right? I don't think you can say that 1.5 should sway anybody here for the Eagles. You have to be convinced the Eagles can win the game if you're taking 1.5.
Oh, 100.
Right?
If you're betting the Eagles, you bet money line.
I don't think you can swing this game on 1.5. As close as the Chiefs have played games, most NFL games are not won by a point. So you got to consider that 3 is the most likely margin here. So the 1.5, I just don't think, don't be fooled into seeing Eagles plus and thinking that you could win that bet with 2 different outcomes. I still think you can only win that bet with one outcome, which is the Eagles hoisting the trophy. So you have to know and think deep down that the Eagles can win this game. Can I say the person that affected me most in regards to what I'm thinking about betting this game? And let me also admit that midway in the season, I have a ticket that says Chiefs Super Bowl and a ticket that says Eagles Super Bowl. I made 3 bets.
You're sitting on money no matter what you're doing.
I am. So in the middle of the season, I made a Steelers Super Bowl bet, an Eagles Super Bowl bet, and a Chiefs Super Bowl bet. That was it. And I actually waited until the Chiefs lost to the Bills because I knew that'd be a better number. I actually waited until the Eagles, I think, lost to the Commanders. I knew that would be a better number. And the Steelers, it was after they beat the Ravens. That was the only time I really thought this could be a Super Bowl team. They fell apart considerably after that. But putting that aside, I've rooted for Andy Reid playoff victories more than any other coach in my life. You were with me during that time. I mean, Andy Reid, 14 seasons in Philadelphia. Think about it. We're talking Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, even the Angels, who I also root for. There hasn't been, I mean, Sosha had a nice run, but there hasn't been a coach playing postseason games that I've rooted for more often than Andy Reid. So part of me is just so used to wanting Andy to win, and yet obviously this is such a different situation. My father's the one that changed me on this. He actually put this bet in. We put it in today. Alternate line, he put in Eagles -7.5. I mean, that's how bullish my dad was on saying, you know what? The Eagles are going to be the better team. They're going to win this game. Sammy, can you just get me -7.5? Let's do it. Which, by the way, is plus about 240 on this. Okay. I mean, it's pretty wild to think that, but I'm not quite as crazy to say the -7.5, but I'll go Eagles money line with you on this. But I do think the 7.5 has some credence. Let's remember how the Bills beat the Chiefs this season. On 4th and 2, Josh Allen and Sean McDermott had a decision to make. They were either going to kick a field goal to allow that game to still be one possession for Mahomes to potentially go down and win it. And instead, going for it on 4th and 2, which they didn't just get the 2, Allen ends up in the end zone. It ends up being a double digit. It ends up being a 2-score victory for them. Don't you think with the number you threw out earlier, with the amount of wins that the Chiefs have had and the amount of 1-score wins that they've had, that for the Eagles to win this game, I don't think it can be a 3-point game. I don't think the Eagles win the close game. I just don't see it. I think if there's a team designed to win the close game, it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the team that win the game if it's down to the wire, and that's just that.
Right. Patrick Mahomes, 3 minutes left. That's 3-minute drill, ball in his hands.
I'm sorry.
Timeout.
If you're looking at that, it's not going to happen. If Mahomes is in the position that Stafford was in the divisional round, he wins that game. And I'm not taking anything away from Stafford. I'm just saying somehow Mahomes finds a way. Stafford got sacked on 3rd down, threw the ball out of bounds on 4th down, and that was their season. Mahomes, we all understand, makes the play and ends up in the end zone or kicking the game-winning field goal to take it to overtime and win it there. So for the Eagles to win this game, I actually now don't think my dad is so crazy. If you think the Eagles are going to win, they've got to put it away. It was similar with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels had won 5 straight games on the final
possession
play of the game, right? Yes, on a final play, including a win against the Eagles. The final play. So you knew that if you were in that position against Daniels, he would likely find a way to win. Mahomes and Daniels are not even in the same conversation when it comes to this, but the Eagles ran away with that game. Much different opponent. Washington, obviously, right? I mean, think about this. The Eagles could have played, by the way, in Wild Card Weekend when Week 18 was coming down to the wire. Do you know that at one point the Eagles were going to play the Packers, the Rams, or the Commanders in the opening weekend in Wild Card Week, and that ended up being their path to, and that was their path to the Super. That ended up being their path to the Super Bowl. Rams and Packers and Commanders all could have been their wild card opponent, and instead ended up being wild card divisional NFC Championship. I don't want to take anything away from that. Those wins all matter, but the fact they didn't have the Detroit test, right? We all knew that would have been a tougher test to pass, but they did it, and they smashed the Commanders. I'm going to say Eagles money line, but I also want everyone to understand that for the Eagles to win this game, I really think they have to have put it away. It's going to have to be 2 possessions. I don't think they can. I don't think Mahomes can have the ball down a possession and lose this game. I don't see it happening.
I spent the last week and a half, right? Even in Mexico, when I'm on the, I'm smoking a joint on my porch
Beautiful.
and Jillian's taking a shower and I'm just thinking to myself and listening to a little music. And I've been trying to talk myself into the Eagles. I have been. I wanted to see it because I believe the biggest offensive line we've ever seen matters. I believe Saquon Barkley matters. I believe Vic Fangio matters. I believe the Chiefs, as impressive as they are just a touch oversold. And should the rug of every benefit of the doubt of officiating be pulled out from underneath them, they're going to be a little less sturdy. And I think that the NFL needs to go out of its way to make sure we're not looking at bullshit call after bullshit call that everyone at home is now screaming about. And they're turning off the game before Kendrick even gets out there to destroy Drake. By the way, what do you got? Is Drake as a guest appearance is plus 3,000. Would there be bigger news in the Super Bowl than Drake coming out at halftime with Kendrick?
It's so amazing to say that. And I also say this much. First of all, I like that.
Won't happen.
But I also, guess what though? I want to say this much. Do you know what I think should be the halftime of the Super Bowl? I think that I think the league should get the tape from Netflix from Christmas. The Beyonce halftime at Christmas will not be beat. I'm just going to say right now that show by Beyonce will not be beat by Kendrick Lamar in this Super Bowl halftime. Beyonce on a white horse coming out the way she did. Obviously, we won't have the Texans owner McNair in a Cadillac. That won't happen. But the rest of that show was next level. I want to just see it again at the Super Bowl. I think it was
Beyonce came out to perform that day like she was trying to get everyone to stop talking about her husband's potential rape allegations. She's like, I'm out here to change the subject.
What's that about? Right?
Hey, she just won a Grammy. But here's the thing. I'm still upset that Beyonce got a part of the halftime here in the Bay Area when it should have been Metallica.
Yes.
And this next Super Bowl, if they don't give Metallica the fucking Super Bowl back at Levi's, they will have screwed that up. Anyway, good luck to Kendrick Lamar. I think his new album's great. Yeah, I was talking myself into Eagles, but I can't. And I'll give you the three things that I think matter most in this game right now. I've already told you, I think this is a coaching game. This comes down to who has the better day, Spagnuolo or Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
I think that's where this game was played. The 2023 Super Bowl, Spags, Kansas City Chiefs against the number one run offense in the San Francisco 49ers. Spagnuolo's defense held the 49ers to 3.6 yards per carry, with the longest rush being 11 yards. 2022 Super Bowl. You got Spags going up against the number one rushing offense of Philadelphia. Spags held them to 2.6 yards per carry, and their top running back to 16 total yards on 7 carries. Spags shuts down running games in the Super Bowl better than any defensive coordinator we can think of, not named Buddy Ryan. So I think that Spags is the right guy for that. And then what really put me over the top is this. As much as I like Vic Fangio, Patrick Mahomes ain't worried at all. He loses no sleep against Vic Fangio. Patrick Mahomes in his career is a perfect 8-0 against Vic Fangio's defenses, either as a head coach or as a defensive coordinator, averaging 27 points per game against Vic Fangio. Those numbers alone, Spagnuolo just destroying running games in Super Bowls, and Vic Fangio never walking off the field with a winning effort against Patrick Mahomes. That, to me, is what I needed to see for me to stop thinking about how the Eagles can do this and just admit the Chiefs are going to do this. I think the Chiefs do this, Sammy. I do.
Look, it's sad, but I'm okay with that. I agree. I will go down in history and I will tell my son Levi about how amazing the Chiefs were. And I will say this much: going into the 22 Super Bowl, I said this to a friend. I want to believe the Eagles can win this game, but I just think we are living in the era of this being the Mahomes story. Everyone else is an extra in the movie about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs. And so the Eagles are just going to be a blip. The Niners are going to be a part. They're going to be a chapter in this, but they're not. The title of this book is not Hurts Eagles win Super Bowl. It's Chiefs dynasty. And I thought that in 22. I'm willing to say that maybe there's just been too many days for me to think about it or relish in the idea that Saquon could be that. I'll only say that is because that's not an X factor, right? Saquon Barkley is not an X factor with what he's done. He doesn't have the potential to do this. He's done it in significant games this season, and he did not rush for the most yards against the Ravens, who I'll say, let's admit that the Eagles win in Baltimore is the most impressive win of the season for the Eagles. Nobody in the end, I don't think you can stack it. They didn't get a chance to play Detroit. Nobody else in the NFC we really think is up to the level of this Chiefs team, of course. It's Saquon. Can he be the one that beats Spagnuolo? To your point, there will be an agenda. Now, there's been many agendas about stopping him this season, and we've all seen how 8 in the box doesn't quite do it, and that Eagles offensive line has made a difference. I also want to poke a little hole in the Fangio versus Mahomes thing, because Fangio's quarterback, I believe, for 4 of those matchups was Drew Lock. So
fair enough.
So it's a different offense. Just admit it's a different offense, and that's not even necessarily saying Hurts, but I'm going to throw Saquon into that as well. As close as the Eagles, and also the team in 22, as good as they were rushing the ball, that was a little more on Hurts. Sanders was also taken out of that game pretty early on because Sirianni was upset with Sanders. Miles Sanders fumbled the ball early in that Super
Didn't
Bowl.
like the book he brought to the sideline to
exactly.
read.
Inner excellence. Sanders did not have the inner excellence that day, so it didn't happen. So in other words, there's no question about what the Eagles' running game is. It's Saquon Barkley, and then it's 30% tush push, right? I mean, that's really what it is. And Hurts can make first downs the way Mahomes does. I will say they're equal in that. Mahomes and Hurts, they're going to rush when necessary. I don't see Hurts the way he did against the Rams rushing a 40-yard touchdown in the way that he did in the divisional round. That's it. The question is if you believe in Saquon. I'm sorry, and as an Eagles fan, of course, there's only one season I've been able to do this, but he's proven. You said it. We're looking at what could be the greatest season of all time, and we're either capping that season with an ultimate performance on the grandest stage on the biggest game, or it's a great season, likely record-setting for the reasons I already mentioned. But again, in the book about the Chiefs, this is just another chapter that said Eagles almost and sorry.
Chiefs haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher since week 1, and that was Lamar Jackson. They also have gone 18 straight playoff games without giving up 100 yards rushing to any individual. So I just think that the Chiefs show up in this game with the right team, the right defense, and the right defensive coordinator to slow down what I believe is the only path to victory for the Eagles. And that's why it's Chiefs, a lot of Chiefs comfortably, 31-24, I think is how we wrap this up.
That would be comfortable. That would be comfortable. It would be. And remember, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith had key roles in the 22 Super Bowl. Long touchdown pass to A.J. Brown that made a difference in the first half. Also, you know what we haven't mentioned? I just want to say it. Hurts' fumble, scoop, and score for the Chiefs in that Super Bowl was a massive play and a major turning point, and is the reason, if you go back, that's probably why Hurts isn't the MVP of that game and the Eagles didn't win it. The Eagles, I mean, this is the ultimate jinx. I mean, I hate to do it. I don't even want to say it out loud, but the 0 turnovers in this postseason, yes, I just said it out loud, but Hurts is playing a different game. You know, part of what.
Well, and how's that knee? I mean, seriously,
looked good a few days ago against the Commanders. Looked pretty good. They had to do the tush push 7 times in a row with Luvu jumping over the line. I mean, it looked.
By the way, how great was that? That was
amazing.
Fantastic.
I love that. I think Washington. You know what? We'll never forget that. And Washington really, you know what? They just said, we're not going to let you beat us traditionally. I wanted the refs to have to step in and just give the Eagles the 6 points, which almost happened.
I've never heard that on field announcement ever.
By the way,
we will award them a score if you do this again.
You know, I'll give Pereira credit. Pereira said those exact words just before it was announced on the referee's microphone. Pereira said, you know, they can just award the score if this keeps happening. And boom, that's what we heard. That was a legendary call. I'll also, my cousin Jack is in the comments here as well. He says Eagles 8.5 minus the 8.5. I mean, that's wild. But I see that as I really do see that as the only path. I think they've got to. And more times in my life, I've seen this go the wrong way. And with Mahomes, we've just seen it go that way. I mean, Spagnuolo and Reed, I mean, in a small way, maybe I can say, you know, Spagnuolo's got the Philly ties, Reed's got the Philly ties, you know, maybe I like that. But I guess I'm willing to believe. I don't know why I'm willing to believe it this year that it could actually happen. I guess because you know why? I told you what I watched last night. It was the Philly special. I watched that last night, and what was more unlikely than Nick Foles beating Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, especially in a Super Bowl in which Tom Brady throws for 500 yards. I mean,
exactly. That was incredible. It was an incredible afternoon. It's one of the greatest losing performances of all time.
It is.
And to go against Nick Foles.
You tell me Tom Brady's got 500 yards in a Super Bowl and the Eagles have Nick Foles on the other side. I mean, if you tell me that going into the game, you just want to know how many points the Patriots won by.
Oh, you're betting mortgages. You're betting children's lives on that. You're betting, what do you want? What do you want? I'll take that bet. And there's no way the outcome could be anything other than Patriots big.
And by the way, yeah, and Brandon Graham, who's probably going to play in this Super Bowl, made the greatest defensive play in that Super Bowl. He stripped Tom Brady the ball with 2.5 minutes to go. That was the biggest play in the game. I mean, Philly special is what it's going to be remembered for, but defensively, that was certainly the biggest play, and maybe he'll have a role in this one. But yeah, the Eagles defense is going to have to be that difference. And it wasn't. In the second half 2 years ago, the Eagles defense let them down. And to your point about Fangio, if it happens again, that's what's going to happen.
Joe Schmo wants to know, what's everybody eating on Sunday? Well, hey, if you're coming on out to the halfway club, by the way, so GQ's bar.
You got to tell me about this, please. Yes.
They got nominated for a James Beard Award, Best New Bar in America.
Look, I have to. So I have threatened to come up and see you a lot. I haven't been in San Francisco to see you. We're going on 10 years now. I've got a photo still pops up, right? It's disgusting. We saw each other in Vegas. We did not see each other. I have to go to San Francisco and we have to drop in on GQ because I did some early damage in that bar. We're talking 99, 2000, 2001, but I need to see GQ again for sure.
It's great. And well, anyone who wants to meet GQ, you can come and do that this Sunday. We are going to be there. We got the back room. We got the big screen. We're going to have food and drink specials. Come on out to the Halfway Club to watch the Super Bowl with like-minded individuals. We got a patio to go out and conduct safety meetings on. Oh, speaking of safety meetings, we used to have safety meetings around here with Joe Fortenbaugh. He is now keeping safe in Bristol, and he is at the Super Bowl on Radio Row. Fortenbaugh, what's up, pal? You know Sam Betesh? I think you guys know each other, don't you?
Let's do it now.
I think so. Joe. How's everything look and sound first and foremost? I want to make sure the shot looks good, and I want to make sure you can hear it okay. It's kind of chaotic.
Beautiful. You look great. Okay. You sound great. I like the shirt. Super cash. How you doing, Fortenbaugh?
I'm good. It's good to be with you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to getting to catch up with you about Mexico sometime in the near future. Sounds like you and the missus had a lot of fun, which is excellent. Sam, good to be talking to you as well. I mean, as you can see, I'll give you the quick look around the room. Here we go. First time in New Orleans for this event. I had been here before, but it's picking up. Ticket prices are dropping, which is interesting, but
wow, very
exciting.
Feel of the crowd. We got more Eagles fans walking around the streets, or we got Chiefs fans?
Great question. I feel like I saw more Chiefs fans at the airport, and I've seen more Eagles fans on the streets. But the thing is, the Eagle fan is so much louder than the Chief fan. They've got these cars decked out where they're going down the street and they're honking and they're blasting music and they're doing the Eagles chant. So the sensory overload on the ear from the Eagles fan, of which I am one, I can attest this. I am very loud and obnoxious as well. They have been so much louder that even if Kansas City's got them 10-1, you can't hear Kansas City. Eagles fans are drowning them out. It's been quiet. I was on like Bourbon Street and in the French Quarter last night. It's calm. I think everyone's bracing for tonight and tomorrow. I think that's when it's really going to start to pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thursday, Friday, above the head of Super Bowl week. Thursday, Friday, French Quarter. Get yourself to Frenchman Street. Get off of Bourbon Street. Get to Frenchman Street. You know that, Joe.
Professional move.
You obviously at ESPN, you've been talking about this from a betting perspective. I know where your heart is. I know you grew up an Eagles fan. I know what you want in this game. How much of that do you have to flush out as you're handicapping this one? I like Chiefs a lot in this game. Spagnuolo has shut down great running games in Super Bowls. It's kind of what he does. Mahomes is undefeated against Fangio in his career, whether it be a head coach or a coordinator. I just think that I spent all week, Joe, trying to talk myself into the Eagles. I cannot do it. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to cover. I like the over in this game. You are Mr. Gambler. How does it look to you?
So it's shockingly easy for me to separate the fandom from the betting. I mean, 2 years ago, I had a big bet on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they ended up winning that game. I'm a self-loathing fan. I've got no problems betting against Penn State, betting against the Sixers, betting against Philadelphia. So when that comes around, that's not the issue I'm dealing with here. The issue I'm dealing with, I guess, is the game comes down to one key thing, essentially. All the modelers, everyone that's trying to look at the number, when we talk about value, has Philadelphia favored. Anywhere from a small, maybe half a point favorite up to 3. Like anyone you talk to who models is going to have Philadelphia as the favorite. Great. 1.5's out there. 1's out there. We can get him as a dog. That's value. Now you have to reconcile the idea that if this is a close game late in the fourth quarter, you don't have Mahomes on your side. And that becomes a major problem. I had the Niners in this Super Bowl last year. I know what it's like to be against Mahomes late in the game. So I found a lot of opportunity with some props, which I know we'll get into, and some other avenues of betting. I think the prudent approach is that if you like Philadelphia, you play him 2 ways. One, you play him in the first half. If you look at the Chiefs, they're slow starters. In their previous 4 Super Bowls, they never held the lead at the half, and they're a half-point favorite here. They were tied in one of those Super Bowls, 10-10. It was the first one against the Niners, the Miami one 5 years ago, the COVID Super Bowl that we all remember so well.
Yes.
So I would look at them in the first half because I think that's the way to play them. And I think number 2, if you like the Eagles to win, you play them on an alternate spread and you play them to win big by like more than 7 or more than 10. If you're going to beat the Chiefs, you got to cut off the head, right? And I think that's how you beat them.
Joe, you are speaking my language. I told Damon that my whole philosophy on this game changed 2 days ago. My dad came over. My dad's got these wild. He thinks he has visions sometimes. Look, we're Eagles fans. Okay, just like you were Eagles fans. But my dad came over and he just goes, you know what, Sam? Eagles big. He said, go get me an alternate line. Get me -7.5. That's what's going to happen. And then the more I slept on, I thought, of course, we all just think, okay, my dad's just being a little overzealous here. But then I went back and thought about it. I'm sure you're going to get to this point. Think about that Bills game this season. 2 possessions. You can't have it come down to Mahomes at the end. It's got to be that you think the Eagles have dominated this game and have put the game away. That's it. I'm so with you. I got my dad the alternate line. He's got the big bet. I have a ticket. Eagles -7.5.
I think that's a great approach because if you're going to beat them, you got to kill them, right? So I think that's the way to play them. And if you like Kansas City, I think you just wait until they inevitably fall behind and then just bet them live. And for those who don't know what that is, you can bet during the game. You just follow along on your sports book and update. There's a live section and the prices will keep updating. And instead of Kansas City being -1, -1.5, early in the game, Philly takes a lead. Kansas City could be +2, or you play the money line. You jump on that and you move on. You have them as a dog. You get them at a better price because they fall behind in these games. Like that's their thing. So those are the prudent approaches, I think, for how to play these 2 sides.
The billions are happy to see Joe Fortenbaugh here. No doubt about it. Like and subscribe. Just because Joey Fortenbaugh is on the damn channel, that's reason enough alone to do it. Joe, give me some exotics. There's always some props out there. Some of them are just total like gut hunch. No one, there's no wrong way to lean on it. It's what your gut telling you. Who you think the first, heads or tails, stupid shit like that. First touchdown of the game. I do have what I think is good value, though. Game's first touchdown. I like Dallas Goedert at +1,800.
Okay.
You're on that line. Everyone's looking for Saquon Barkley, play action, wide open. It's Dallas Goedert in the corner. That's, a zero evidence to back it up, just hunch, prop bet. Give me a couple that you like.
Well, the thing with Goddard is he's been the top target, tied for the most targets for the Eagles this postseason. And number 2, Kansas City's given up more receiving yards to opposing tight ends than any team in the NFL. You can beat them there. So if we like Philadelphia to jump off faster and you like Goddard, obviously in the matchup base, I don't think there's anything wrong with him at 18-1. I think first touchdown's a fun market to get involved in. I'll give you one. First sack. Okay. There's 2 bets here. First sack and then to record a sack. Same player, Trent McDuffie, the corner of the Kansas City Chiefs. 43 career games, 4.5 career sacks. So you're going to think to yourself, Fortenbaugh, why would I want to play this guy to record the first sack as well as play him the bet to record a sack at any time? To record the first sack is 50-1. To record a sack at any time is 30-1. Like I said, 4.5 career sacks. 2 of them. came against Philadelphia last year when they met each other on a Monday night, I believe, at Arrowhead. Steve Spagnuolo knows he needs to bring pressure on Jalen Hurts. Hurts versus pressure versus Hurts with no pressure, two different quarterbacks. Spags is the genius at designing ways to bring pressure that you're not accustomed to seeing. Go back and watch that first game last regular season. McDuffie blitzed like 8 times off the edge. He's going to bring them. 1 sack at 30-1 is insane. And then 50-1 to have the first sack. I think that's a long shot worth playing.
I like it. I like Xavier Worthy, anytime touchdown, plus 150. That sounds easy to me.
They're using him in the passing game more and more as the season's gone on. He's developed quite well as a rookie. They also use him in the rushing game. And they use him in the rushing game when they get near the red zone. I think that's a good one as well. I've heard conflicting from people on over 4.5 receptions or 5.5, I think, for him and under. I've heard conflicting on that. So I have nothing there. I played his rushing yardage prop over in the AFC Championship. I'm not doing anything with that right now. I think if you're looking for some receivers, A.J. Brown's the one that stands out to me, over 69.5 yards. And then over 125 yards is 7-1. Reason I like him, nobody in the NFL has more receiving yards against man coverage than A.J. Brown. He's number 1. Jalen Hurts likes to throw those fades down the sideline. The Chiefs play man coverage at the 5th highest rate in the NFL. And if Spags' plan is to shut down Saquon Barkley or limit Saquon Barkley, it's going to open up the passing game. So I think A.J. Brown could be a big recipient. He's kind of my long shot for MVP. He was 30-1. It's a guy I'm looking at in that market as well.
What book?
By the way, Joe, remember though, A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl 2 years ago and that Monday night game, that was the key player against the Chiefs offensively for the Eagles. Now, again, this is a team now that has Saquon Barkley that didn't then, but I love what you're saying about A.J. Brown. He seemed to be the matchup that could be exploited against the Chiefs. In both of these recent memory matchups, it was A.J. who played a massive factor.
Yeah, I hope that type of thing continues. It's just we see these patterns, and then we lock onto them, and a lot of times there's a ton of opportunity there, and then you watch the game just go completely off script, and then you're sitting there with your thumb, you know what, realizing I'm about to lose everything in this game. I got to pull the ripcord fast.
Is the biggest story on Radio Row still Luka to the Lakers?
We led with it Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, I'm not sure what the lead. I think the lead yesterday was we're here because it was our first day on Radio Row. But it's the NBA. If it's not Luka, it's everything that's happening today. Kevin Durant and the idea of coming back to the Warriors. What are the Warriors going to do? Jimmy Buckets. So today we led with buckets, but it's a little bit of payback for Christmas, right? A little bit of payback. Like, you're going to go ahead and steal our holiday. We're going to go ahead and steal your week. They've done a really nice job taking the storyline because all the stuff that's happening here from a football perspective, none of it's unique. It's all the legacy stuff. Is Mahomes the GOAT? Is Andy Reid the GOAT? What would 3 mean? There's nothing fresh.
Well, by the way, Joe, in regards to the NBA, remember, this is the NBA trade deadline falls in this in the week of the Super Bowl. It falls. And remember, 2 years ago, the Durant trade trumped Super Bowl week. It was Durant going to the Suns 2 years ago. That was the storyline at that time, and it happened. And again, we've got it with Luka. My question for you, though, is this. My father-in-law keeps bothering me about a Mavs championship bet now at this point. Now, I know a lot of people like to say that the Lakers so clearly won that trade, but how do you feel about a flyer on the Mavericks after this trade, Kyrie, Anthony Davis? Is there any reality to that? Should we be thinking more maybe win the Western Conference? You think there's anything there for a futures with this trade? Now, I could be wrong. I could be on the wrong side of it. You can tell me there's a Lakers future, but with this trade, what do you see as a futures play?
I'd be more inclined to get behind Dallas than I would the Lakers. I think the Lakers are like a long-term buy, but a short-term pass or sell. They don't have any defense. I like the Williams trade that came over from Charlotte. That gives them a big man, but
Mark Williams,
they were 21st in defensive efficiency before getting rid of Anthony Davis. Like, you need to be a top 12 defense to win titles in this league. I talk about this every year. I keep updating the stats. Last 25 years, you've had 50 teams in the NBA Finals, right? Of those 50, over 85% ranked in the top 12 in defensive efficiency. You have like somewhere over 70% were in the top 10, 75% were in the top 10. Offense in the modern NBA is your floor. Offense is your floor. Where can you get stops? So I think adding Anthony Davis gives Dallas some intrigue. I would not be buying the Lakers. I watch what the Thunder are doing, and I say to myself, like, you know, all of this kind of runs through them. And that's if we assume Houston and Memphis aren't hanging around. So there's a lot to get through in the West. Dallas would be more intriguing to me than the Lakers, however.
Joe, where's your social calendar bringing you tonight? What parties are you hitting? You got big dinner plans? Tell me about Fortenbaugh Thursday night in New Orleans.
Good question. We would probably want a better answer than what I'm about to give. This is going to be very deflating, but we've got dinner at Koshan at 6:30. So
you've already won the night. You've won. You can walk off right now. You've won the segment.
Dinner set up nicely. After that, though, it's gonna be a quick night. Fridays are like the ultimate grind day in my schedule. So we start. I think the opening hit is like 5:50 a.m. and we're not going to conclude until after 7 p.m. And it's going to be wild. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's a lot of jumping from stage to stage all over the downtown area. So I got to make sure your boy needs to be razor sharp. Now Saturday we can get a little loose. Schedule's clear. And then Sunday we only have a show from 11 to 12. I believe that's local time. So 12 to 1 Eastern on ESPN2, getting you set for the Super Bowl. But that Saturday is the get loose day.
Have a great time, brother. Thank you so much for carving out a little time. Again, I know your demands are through the roof. Great to see you, Joe. We miss you out here in the Bay Area. That goes without saying. Jillian and I miss you. You know that. We'll talk real soon, brother.
I appreciate you having me on and being flexible with the schedule. And I do look forward to catching up in a little bit more of a robust way. Let's do one of these, let's do a lifestyle pod one day where we can just sit and shoot the shit for a while.
Talk about where you got that shirt. I love it.
Yeah.
That is a classic. The comments are blowing up on the shirt, by the way. The comments are all about your shirt, Joe.
It's all about presenting just a casual lifestyle approach. That's what we are here. Casual. I learned it in California. Okay. It doesn't really fly in Connecticut. People think it's crazy, but I'm going to keep it going.
Keep it cash. There he is, Joe Fortenbaugh. The billions have been served. Thank you so much to Joe for stopping on by on a really, really busy day. That guy's got a million different directions he's getting pulled in. And yeah, he's dressed like Wembley Fraggle. So how do you argue with that? Whenever you can get a Fraggle Rock shirt on Joe Fortenbaugh.
You kept Fraggle Rock mentioned, by the way. Is just what was the over-under on that today?
So we're deep in Fraggle Rock now. I'm looking. So it's so funny. I got the boys watching old Pee Wee Herman Playhouse. Yes. We got those on Amazon, a couple seasons of Pee Wee Herman. By the way, Miss Yvonne, the prettiest woman in Puppet Land.
Yes.
You have never seen more cleavage on Saturday morning television than what Miss Yvonne brings to the table. It's been a while since you've probably seen these old Pee Wee Playhouse episodes. No, she's bringing some D-cup titties to your children every Saturday morning. It's nice.
I love that, and I've tried to get Levi behind a few of the items that I used to watch in the day. You know what he woke me up with today? He said, "Daddy, can we watch?" And he's just speaking, but Daddy, I want Jason Kelce. He's liking the Jason Kelce Friday night show.
Okay.
And so, which is just super random, and he doesn't watch a lot. He watches sports, and then he caught a glimpse of that show, and now he wants Jason Kelce, which if you watch it almost is like a children's Saturday morning show.
Is he already is Levi already walking around wearing like a Ron Hextall jersey, just hitting off all the time?
I love that. And you see the bullies behind me here, the Broad Street Bully shirt. You know what's amazing? I've tried to get Levi. I've tried to do this. Now, Damon, tell me how you've done it with your boys. I don't want to impart a specific, in other words, how many times have you said to your father, why did you make me a fan of this team? Because of the heartbreak that happens again and again, right? I want Levi to carve his path. I even think, could you imagine if we could raise children who loved the sport? In other words, they were passionately playing for the sport. That, in other words, imagine if every championship was fun for you or I. We know that it's not, right? We know that parade day is like the worst day because it's never your team in it and it sucks. Imagine if you had a tie and a reason to root every single year for the champion because you just loved the sport. You just loved watching the games no matter how they came, no matter what it came down to, no matter what the outcome was. And so he's just collecting players right now that he loves. Yes, Jalen and Saquon he loves, but he's big on Lamar Jackson. He talks about Burrow and Chase. He actually loves Scattaboo from Arizona State. He keeps saying he loves saying that name.
Fun name to say.
So I kind of just have him watching games, collecting. I'm trying not to bias. He saw his first Gatorade dump. He says, "Daddy, I want to see Coach dump his head." He loves that. So he's just getting into it, but I want him to just root for the innocence and the things that matter without it having to be Philadelphia. But of course, I've donned him in Iverson and Hextall gear. Yes.
So the way I got it, because Jillian is from San Francisco. The boys were born in San Francisco. If you ask me who I grew up rooting for, even though I grew up in upstate New York, I was born in Chicago, but that stayed with me. So I think the town that you're born in, goes a long way to determine who this is. And the boys are being raised as Giants, Niners, Warriors fans. They're certainly all around them because that's what daddy covers. But I also know that the number one way to rebel against me is to thoroughly reject sports and not like them at all.
Oh,
I don't force it at all.
love that.
I
Love that.
let it just happen. Daddy's watching a game. You got questions. You want to come, and I love it. Jack will come in and be like, "Where's Steph Curry?" He wants to find him and start watching him, and so I'm letting it happen naturally. And I think it's the right way to go. I think it's the right way to go.
So is one thing I just wanted to say. I just read this morning, but Jalen Hurts has had the Chiefs confetti falling in Arizona around him as his backdrop on his phone since that day. So talk about just kind of motivating you through that. That's a pretty powerful. I know a lot of players talk about that moment, remembering it, but having it on your phone every day is a nice reminder of what almost was and yet didn't happen. So
I believe in stupid little motivators like that. I do.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you have to. Yeah, you absolutely need it. And I saw Lurie and Andy Reid hugging at media night, and it just got me thinking. Does Lurie ever wonder, what sort of could have been that, right? Like Andy Reid is fired in 2012, and he did create a bit of an NFC dynasty, a mini dynasty. They obviously didn't get it done, but they were in those NFC championship games. And then he goes to Kansas City and he's at another level. Is there any part of Lurie that wonders that? And then I went back, it's the Eagles won a Super Bowl before Andy Reid did, actually. The Doug Peterson year happened the year before, just the season before the Chiefs were able to do that against the Niners. But of course, Andy's got the 3 and the Eagles only have the 1. So this is an important one. This is an important sort of tie in that whole thing. Like, did Lurie get it right? If Andy's got 4 and the Eagles have 1, it's starting to look like, man,
I honestly,
Andy.
We know, again, hindsight is always 20/20. You can always see behind you with clear vision. At the moment of them moving on from Andy Reid, I got it. I think Andy Reid got it. I think everybody in Philadelphia got it. It wasn't a moving on because he's no good. It's just we've seen the very, very best of him, and unfortunately, it's still not enough to deliver us to where we want to go. And Andy, it's so funny. We are constantly trying to figure out if Kyle Shanahan's the right guy for this job. Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid are walking hand in hand with different timelines, but the same sort of pressure points being applied to who they are, their reputations. And again, if Kyle Shanahan were to go to another Super Bowl and lose that one too, well, at 0-3 in the Super Bowl, I've officially,
0-3 including 0-3 including, and you have to include this on his resume, the 28-3.
Oh, no. How that is attached to Kyle Shanahan and not Dan Quinn is one of the more amazing things.
You're right. No, it is. And by the way, I watched that little 30-minute recap last night along with the Eagles beating the Patriots, only to relive how was it possible? How did that happen?
Yeah.
So you think it's unfair? I actually like that. He definitely was not the head coach, but people do say that, Shanahan should have been running the ball more, and that was part of it. So, but that's the thing. Like,
the whole point of that is they gave up 28-3. That sounds like a defensive coordinator issue as much as anything else, right? You were up 28-3 and you lost that game, and you want to piss on the guy who was the offensive coordinator. I don't even remember who was the defensive coordinator of that team. He's never discussed, and how Dan Quinn has just escaped criticism is one of the more Houdini acts I've ever seen.
I love that. And of course, the NFC Championship run this year helps that, because now he took a team that wasn't going to be there a step ahead. So we'll see how it follows him in Washington. But you're right. And I was only going to argue for Shanahan, because I can't stand when coaches are fired. You have to remember, again, that you're starting with 0 wins with a new guy. What Kyle Shanahan brings and gets out of those players, again, it's similar to McVay. McVay gets criticized also here in Los Angeles. And of course, McVay has the championship that Shanahan does not. But how do you're really going to move on? I thought, by the way, they took your advice, by the way. The Saleh move is everything, right? I mean, it's like, that's the difference there. And to bring that gang back together, it feels like this is going to happen, and the NFC will still be up in the air, and the Eagles win or lose, they're not going to be invincible here. I think the Niners with Shanahan.
No, look, the Niners, I think, are a good team who had a bad year, a funny year, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong, including a first-round draft pick getting shot at Union Square.
And how about this? how about this? Another thing in regards to Shanahan and Andy Reid. I mean, McNabb is going to be the best quarterback of these that I talk about right now. But remember that when Andy got the job in Kansas City, he also couldn't get, quote, over the hump. Alex Smith, who's great, but not a Hall of Famer in that way, he couldn't quite get there with Alex Smith. And for Shanahan, no one's going to fault. We're talking Garoppolo and Purdy here. I mean, in the pantheon of quarterbacks in the history of the game, nobody's going to be looking back and saying, man, I can't believe Garoppolo didn't win a Super Bowl. I can't believe Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, didn't win a Super Bowl. I just don't think those two guys are not that level. And we have to understand with Andy Reid, and as I talked about with Lori, I mean, the Mahomes part of it, not that this is shocking to anyone, but that is just credit to Brett Veach, credit to everyone who knew that Mahomes was that guy. That's what it comes down to. And if Shanahan had a difference-making quarterback, I mean, a true difference-making quarterback, and Purdy may be that guy, but I don't think we can fault him without that. I just don't think we can. This is checkers and chess. This is apples and oranges. It's just different when you've got that guy on your side.
How many more bites at the trying to win it all apple does Kyle get? I think he gets several more bites, but at some point, you got to get it done. And that's the situation that Andy Reid ran into. And if you're telling me that Shanahan is a guy who wins a Super Bowl in his next location, I would believe that. And because I believe that, I don't want to see him in his next location before he gets another shot here. I love the 49ers against the last place schedule next season. I'm telling you, they're going to roll out of bed and win 10. They better. Yeah,
it's one of the most unfair. It's one of the most unfair advantages because that division was what it was this season, and the Niners just happen to be on the right end of that. But a down season usually leads to an uptick, and I see the Niners as massive contenders in the NFC for next season.
I like the Chiefs in this game. I like the Chiefs to cover. I like the over in this game. I like Dallas Goedert scoring the first touchdown in this game. I also like, what are a couple of other props that I wrote down? DeAndre Hopkins, 11.5 receiving yards, over.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Isaiah Pacheco, 20.5 rushing yards.
That's got to happen. That's
over.
Fall out.
I like that. Saquon Barkley, over 110.5 rushing yards. Under. What I think happens in this game, I think the under might be the play on that. I think the under could be the play on that. The Chiefs do not allow someone to go for 100 yards against them. Saquon might spit on that, but we'll find out. Xavier Worthy, anytime touchdown scorer, plus 150. I like that too. Wrap it on up for me here before we get to today in history. How are you officially betting this one? What do you like in this game?
So again, I have the ticket through my father for the -7.5 Eagles. I'll just say Eagles money line. I'm going to say Eagles money line here. I mean, part of me knows what this looks like. Part of me knows this feeling and understands that this is just a chapter in the Mahomes novel is what this is. And this likely turns out to be a close, we almost had it, couldn't get it done. But I will not be feeling good. I will not, if the Eagles are not up double digits, I won't be feeling like this is one. I just won't. I won't be able to be innocent about it. I have to.
You're going to have a stressful Super Bowl Sunday.
And by the way, you mentioned what your party that you're having at GQ's place, which is amazing. I sent you and Jillian the invite, or sent you the invite from Allie. I've rented out a movie theater. I think this is, I can't imagine how I'm going to allow people to watch me melt down in this game. I've invited 50, 70 people to come watch in this movie theater with me. Am I crazy? Like, how stupid was that?
You are nuts, but I like it. I like it. That's my kind of nuts. Let me ask you, have you been to that new stadium
Cosm
in LA?
Cosm.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I haven't been to Cosm yet. I have friends that are absolutely raving about it. Next time you are in LA, D, we are doing it, whether it's a soccer match, whatever the hell it is, because to sit there up front and have the camera put you in the end zone the way that it does is an experience you and I need.
It looks pretty cool. It looks like the Sphere, but for sporting events.
And that's exactly what it is. And it is next level difference making. So we will do that. So that's it. I would say money line. And the other thing I might like is Hurts 1.5 touchdowns over. I just think because Hurts can get them in multiple ways. And we know how the tush push even played a role in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I simply could see that happening. I think it would need to for the Eagles to be on the right end of this.
It's so good to see you. Thanks again to Joe Fortenbaugh for stopping on by. Let me tell everyone one more time here before we officially tip our cap and say thanks for watching. If you don't know what you're going to be eating on Super Bowl Sunday, get ready to order from Ike's and have one show up at halftime. You'll be very happy that you did. One of the best sandwiches in the world. Make sure that you go ahead and you sign up for that Love Rewards program. You get a free sandwich when you sign up. You get chips, drinks, all that good stuff available to you when you sign up over at Ike's. Our good friends at the Dubliner. Love the freaking Dubliner West Portal. We will be having our Super Bowl viewing party together at the Halfway Club on Geneva, but crazy love for our friends at the Dubliner. See, we got a full back room at the Halfway Club. We got a kitchen at the Halfway Club. We got a big screen TV at the Halfway Club. We don't do that at the Dubliner. Dubliner is more of a little tiny neighborhood bar, but we got a really great setup for you. Hopefully you plan on coming out. And again, you got a wager. Make sure you check out our good friends over at BetUS. Not only do you use promo code YouTube 150 when you sign up, check out their new casino. Get 200% sign up bonus up to $5,000 in their casino with 250% crypto sign up bonus up to $5,000 in the casino. So that's how you go on BetUS. Are you ready for a little history today, Sammy?
Let's go. I love these.
I do. If you ask me, what would you been in life if you weren't a sports talk guy? I would have liked to have been a history teacher.
That's great.
I love history.
Awesome. Damn.
Yeah,
I love it.
Today, he would be 130 years old. He's no longer with us, but today was the day that Babe Ruth was born. Babe Ruth, born today in 1895. Unfortunately, also no longer with us, but a significant birthday today. And you talk about, it's interesting to just watch your kids grow, what they like, what hits their ear, and they go, "Ooh, what's that? Turn that up, Dad." You know what Jack likes? I must have smoked enough weed in my life to where this happened in utero somehow, some way. I put this DNA into myself. Jack loves reggae, and he loves Bob Marley. And today is Bob Marley's birthday, born February 6, 1945. It is Bob Marley Day in Jamaica and in Ethiopia. Why it isn't Bob Marley Day right here in the United States?
It is. We just made it so. We just made it so.
It should be an international day. We recognize all sorts of goofy days. I don't know how this one came about. Big chopstick lobbyists got it pushed through. Today is National Chopsticks Day. How are you with chopsticks, Sam? Are you comfortable with the chopsticks?
I'm very good. Shout out to my friend Eric DeBerardinis. He's known as Debo. I went to sushi with him here in LA. We had an amazing dinner. Watching him with chopsticks was so funny. He was so bad. We actually needed to get from the server. We needed to get the one that has the rubber bands around it that can do it for you. I can't catch flies, but I'm awesome for sushi with them. You know, I mean, I'm not playing tricks, but I'm good with how about you? I'm good with the chopsticks, and Levi's kind of into them now, so I'm trying to get him there.
Beyond the fork, knife, and spoon, there is no implement that I'm more comfortable with than the chopstick. I will crush chopsticks. You would think my name were Ping. I'm so good with chopsticks.
I did some damage at Blowfish Sushi in San Francisco, and yes, I believe it. I've seen it. I know what we can do with chopsticks. And by the way, in regards to Babe Ruth, I just want to say, you and I, as much as Babe Ruth, and we'll hear this a lot, you and I are living in the era of the greatest baseball player of all time. Shohei Ohtani, already with what he has done, is the greatest player of all time.
Here's the thing. My question to Ray Ratto when we were working together was simply, what was Willie Mays' ERA? We have nothing left to discuss. How many Cy Youngs did Willie Mays win?
To do that.
With all due respect, there is no one. So before we get back to today in history, so I'm in Mexico. I make a rookie move, Sam. I packed everything, forgot nothing except for a very vital piece of your beach vacation. I forgot my fucking hat. What? I forgot a hat.
Gee, you've got lovely hair, but you got to have the hat.
Got to have the hat. You're not going to breakfast in the morning. You're not showering before breakfast. You want a hat to throw on. You want a hat at the pool. You want a hat at the beach. I forgot a hat. So Jillian, she's got her big sun hat, her Farrah Fawcett hat, but she also had in her bag an old Giants hat. So I was able, with an adjustable back, I never wear Giants gear. I'm not a Giants fan. I just cover the team, but I wore a Giants hat in Mexico for 4 days. Every single person who wore a Dodger anything made eye contact with me and gave me a look of pity.
I love that. And I love when rivalries go that way. I hate being on the wrong end of it, but I do love when a storied rivalry is one-sided, historically when it used to go another way and then it shifts to the other. And right now for sure. And shout out to Gabe Kapler, who by the way had the last time the Giants were really, come on. The Giants were, when Kapler was there, the Giants had that team up against the Dodgers significantly. And we really have, since then it's been interesting.
The flukiest season ever.
It was a pretty awesome season, though. It was a pretty the Giants when they were back and forth with the Dodgers that way in that 5-game series, that was pretty special. But I love that Dodger fans get to walk around, and I'm not a Dodger fan. My wife Allie is, absolutely, and she and because I rooted for Shohei as an Angels fan, I was able to kind of join the bandwagon in that way. But the Dodgers are at another level. When it comes to just winning and putting a product out there and collecting players and putting a roster together, they are winning a boat race.
By the way, Kim has it the best. Kim Schaefer. You remember Kim Schaefer from...
Yes,
you
I
remember
do.
Kim? Of course.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Kepler
Absolutely.
was fun to look at. Yeah, I guess if you're a girl.
No, Gabe's a great looking guy. So Damon, there were about 3 years of my career where I hung out with Gabe. When he started, before he was the Phillies and the Giants manager, he was sort of in the Dodger system. Before Dave Roberts got that job, Gabe was up for it. He was deep in the Rays system, I think, coaching system. And then he went to TV. We did TV together at Fox Sports 1 when it launched. Gabe was the baseball guy there. He was learning TV along with me, and I was helping him. He was helping me every day.
I did a CBS Ion baseball radio show with him and John Heyman for a few weeks.
Is he an awesome guy though, Kepler? I think Kepler's
here's the thing.
Awesome dude.
At that point in time, he went like down the road of just sort of unrelatable though. Like he got way too much in his own bullshit.
Like my mom, Gabe is a little spiritual in that way. He's got alternate views on the world. But I will say the way that the Dodgers are winning is a lot of Gabe Kapler philosophy, a lot of thinking differently, closer in the high leverage situation instead of the end of games. There's a lot that Gabe, I like that he's a different thinker. I do like that about Gabe.
Okay. Get him the fuck out of here is what everyone was screaming at the very end. Although it was, look, with the cards that he was dealt by Farhan, I don't know if Buck Showalter was winning too much with that. Yeah. Anyways, back to our history lesson. Today in 1926, the NFL adapted a rule that made players ineligible for competition until their college class graduated. So, a rule book that not exactly gets followed anymore, but the NFL was still forming back in 1926. That happened today. Today in 1952, Sam, Queen Elizabeth II was elevated to the British throne. She would become the largest sitting British monarch in history. And of course, we all know that when she got there, the first thing she said was, hello. But that's it, dude. You got to give it up to Queen Elizabeth, right? I mean, that's a hell of a run. Talking about dynasties. That's a hell of a run.
That is undefeated. Yeah, that's a dynasty that we can say is not in play on Sunday. Yeah, that one just won. That one won.
When's the last time you had a Perrier?
Yeah, it has been. Although I've been liking the Trader Joe's sparkling, but I like a Perrier. I do enjoy a Perrier.
Today in 1985, Perrier made its first new product in 123 years when somebody at Perrier said, let's add a twist of lemon or lime. Today in 1985, Perrier unleashed its first new product in 123 years, and we haven't looked back. Perrier ever since. There you go.
It's a great one. Twist.
There you go. And it's a slow day in history. So you get to end with a little Perrier. What color Perrier will be poured on Taylor Swift when she wins another Super Bowl here?
It's pretty exciting. By the way, so it would be Kelsey's 4th Super Bowl, and Taylor Swift has 4 Grammys for Best Album. So there's a little bit of, there's a good
symmetry finally to that relationship.
Right? That could be nice for you if the Chiefs end up on this. So Taylor Swift, by the way, I'm all for, again, when I talk about likable Chiefs, I enjoy a Taylor Swift cutaway. I enjoy the story. Like, I don't know. There's all this hatred. I got no problem. I just have no problem with that story whatsoever.
I don't, it doesn't bother me. I've gotten really good later in life picking and choosing the things I'm going to allow bother me. Taylor Swift will not. I will not allow that to bother me.
Not on the list. Not on
the list. So thank you for putting us on your list today. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Sammy, tell everyone where they can find you, your podcast, the stuff you're doing with Andrew Siciliano. Plug away, brother.
Absolutely. So you can catch us. Thinking Out Loud is the name of the podcast. You can get us at Apple Podcasts and at Spotify. Also on this very YouTube channel. at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. You can also catch us on YouTube at Siciliano Show. Andrew and I, we throw out little clips there on Instagram as well, and Twitter, and you can follow along on Andrew's timeline. There's plenty from our show as well. Thinking Out Loud. Thanks for being here on the YouTube page with us today, and thanks to you, Damon, Bruce Blues. I mean, you have really led the way on all of this, and what you have done with that channel is incredibly impressive. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, brother. It's been an awesome little community that we put together. Hopefully, a lot of people will be tuning in to not just tuning in, but showing up at the Halfway Club for Super Bowl Sunday. We'll get going around 3:00 and be there to the end of the game, obviously. Thanks so much for watching today. Like and subscribe to both channels. And as always, we encourage you to remember that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, they're gone.